Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Want to talk about this paper, paper number 1, and organizing it, as well as using hyperlinks. So because this paper is a lot of just analysis and kind of thinking through questions that don't really have a good answer or a right answer, the best medium for that seems to be a magazine style. So what I mean by that is your actual paper doesn't have to be super academically formal for paper 1. You're going to think about what does it sound like to do more real world published writing, like something that you would see in a high quality magazine or newspaper or news magazine. So if we look at the paper 1 prompt, it says under the formats and requirement that you need a thoughtful, well-developed paper that clearly explains your topic and research, blah, blah, blah. But this part about arguing and interesting points, this is what I'm talking about, that this kind of interesting point where it's more of a what's up with that kind of question lends itself to magazine analysis articles. So I have 2 samples for you, and they're both here on Blackboard, and one of them goes along with option 1 of your paper. So if we look back and check out option 1 is if you wanted to choose a topic for this paper where you're seeing that both sides really often have a misunderstanding, or this word's a little it works in some instances, it doesn't really work in other instances, but a misunderstanding or sometimes just an ignoring or being unwilling to fully hear or see the other side. If you want to use a topic that's kind of highly emotional, I will let you do that for this. So let's say you want to write about vaccinations. You're not writing an argument paper pro or con vaccination, right? So it's not an argument paper, but you're going to write about what's interesting, complex, difficult, valuable, about understanding why these 2 sides aren't understanding each other, are unwilling to hear each other, like it's the what's up with that kind of question, right? So your examples for why is it that these people can't seem to hear each other or acknowledge each other, and sometimes it's really just one side, not the other, will be rooted in that topic, right? So you'll say your paper, the topic is still why is it that people can't hear each other, understand each other, why won't they give up their bias or see their bias or whatever. For example, let's look at vaccinations. For example, let's look at Black Lives Matter, right? And why is it that some people can only seem to see this as some kind of terrorist organization, which it's not. But why is it that they're so willing to believe that? What's up with that, right? So when we think about things like that, we want to sort of question, is it just a misunderstanding, or is this a willful disbelief, right? Based in some kind of bias that is either explicit or maybe unconscious, right? Okay, so that's one option. That's the topic option. And then the second option is keeping it general, right? So these samples, one is under the guise of a topic, right? How to talk about climate change so anyone will listen. So if we look at this sample, it just dives right into this topic. It doesn't go slow. It doesn't give a bunch of background information about climate change or about misinformation or memory or changing someone's mind. It just says, like, here we are, here's my dilemma. And it's sort of anecdotal. We're sort of with that person on Thanksgiving, right, with their family. But really this ends up being their thesis, right? Some issues are just too urgent to leave undiscussed, right? That we can't shy away from some things that are so important just because they make us feel uncomfortable. Okay. And so this is a good model if you're interested in writing about one of those heated topics in a way where you think people need to talk about it in maybe more direct ways, but also you need to be thinking about how is it that we persuade people, because just arguing or just throwing facts at them unfortunately doesn't change their minds, or I would have changed a lot of minds in my life, and I have not. Right? So thinking about how do we do this about these sensitive topics. So here is an example of that. And then the other one is the more general topic, right? That the other side is not dumb, right? And of course, that other side being not dumb is things like people who still think that vaccinations cause autism, which so much science says that they do not, right? It's not that that person is dumb, it's just they haven't come around to believe it yet, right? Whereas if you wanted to say the other side is dumb, it would clearly be like, all right, we can talk about something more dramatic like Nazis, right? There's less of what's called a false equivalence there than just saying anyone who disagrees with me must be dumb, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So this one is just more general, staying in the issue of why is it that people are so eager to say people who don't agree with me, I don't want to talk to them, or I don't want to be around them anymore, right? Okay, so we can think about body paragraphs here in terms of sort of an academic style. I've labeled this, this weird lettering here is mine, not the author's. So I put a T here like for a topic sentence, give some evidence and explanation here, goes on in the next paragraph to continue with evidence and explanation, doesn't need to set up another topic sentence, but just continues on the same topic, and then gives the analysis down here. So why does all of this matter, right? Well, this kind of behavior is counterproductive, right? This is why it matters. So you can think about this in terms of paragraph structure, where it might not be a topic sentence, evidence, analysis, in this perfectly formulaic 1, 2, 3 things in one paragraph, now we move on, right? It's not necessarily that kind of academic writing. Okay. All right, so use these samples. The other thing you can use is some language and sentence starters. Okay. So when you click on that, it gives you some language that you can have this, steal this, use this, and it just can help you to start a sentence, start a paragraph with any of these kind of words, right? So we're breaking some traditional rules here, but these are broken all the time by professional writers, and so we're going to try breaking them too, and see what it feels like to start a sentence with but, and think about why are we doing that, right? Well, it's continuing the conversation along. Can we have a sentence all on its own that begins with the word but, or a sentence just all on its own just because, right? That this kind of language, these short, pithy sentences move the paper along, right? Move the argument along. So here's the example of one sentence. It's obviously it's not a paragraph, right? And you wouldn't want to do this with, all of your sentences. That would be insane. But one sentence, but I'd like to go a step further, is lovely here just on its own, and it makes you want to keep reading. So this kind of thing for emphasis works really well, right? The other aspect is hyperlinking, and I'm going to talk about that in another video. All right, thanks for listening, and look for the hyperlinking video very soon.